It's as strong as a spell. I'll never tell. Yeah, I like you, that's for sure.
Hi guys, welcome back to Exmo Lex. I have been sick for the past couple of weeks, so I'm sorry for the lack of new content, but I'm back, I'm feeling a lot better, and we're gonna talk about sex again today, so I hope you're not tired of talking about that. I made this post on Twitter where I said, my sex life improved a lot when I left the Mormon church. Anyone else experience the same? This is a true statement for me personally, and I was curious to see if it was true for anybody else, but I won't lie to you, when I made the post, I knew that there were gonna be Mormons coming out of the woodwork having something mean to say about it. I got a comment from one Mormon in particular that I absolutely just had to share with the world because I've gotten this comment from multiple Mormons in the past, but I really want to share it, I want to talk about it, so here we go. Well, sure, because you had sex with every Tom, Dick, and Sheila who looked at you twice. It wasn't the church you left, it was your moral compass. But you be you, glad you love sex so much. I mean, yeah, I do love sex. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, even in the church. But I have to talk about this, and I did talk about it on Instagram Reels and on TikTok, but I wanted to make a more long form video so we can discuss this a little bit more in depth. The thing that I find hilarious about Mormons making this comment, because again, I have gotten this comment multiple times, is that they assume I left the church and my sex life is better now because I'm sleeping around and I'm super immoral and, you know, I'm basically being a whore. I have been in a committed, monogamous relationship with my husband for over 10 years. But Mormons always assume that I'm saying my sex life improved because I'm sleeping around. My sex life didn't improve because I started taking multiple partners after I left the church. My sex life improved after I left the church because without all of this shame and guilt I had from the church, I have a lot more self-confidence in my sexuality. I've been better able to accept myself, understand myself, figure myself out. Without all of the shame I'm getting from my church leaders, without all of the arbitrary rules that the church has, my husband and I are able to communicate more easily and more happily, which makes sex better. Sex within the church can be so many different things, and I'm not saying that my sex life within the church was bad. I'm just saying it's a lot better now. But I feel like comments like this are really telling on themselves. If you think the only reason that somebody's sex life could get better is if they started taking multiple partners, do you really want to be monogamous? Because it sounds like if you had a choice, if you weren't following these arbitrary rules because you feel like you have to, if you did what you really wanted to do, it sounds like you wouldn't have just one partner. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having multiple partners. I'm not calling it immoral. And I'm not saying that the church is a good moral compass. But it sounds to me like if you had the choice, you would not be monogamous. And again, nothing wrong with that. If you left the church and you decided to be polyamorous, I would be happy for you. But attacking ex-Mormons and making assumptions like this makes you look like an ass. Another point I wanted to make is that this person and others like them assume that I have multiple partners and I'm sleeping around, and they look down on me for that. My brother in Christ, have you looked at the founder of your own religion? Joseph Smith had dozens of wives. He had dozens of partners. And not just Joseph Smith, it didn't stop there. Brigham Young had 55 wives. That's an awful lot of sexual partners. In fact, many church leaders in the 1800s had multiple wives, multiple sexual partners. And normally I wouldn't shame people for having multiple partners, but I will shame them if their partners were not old enough to consent. I just feel like this person in particular and people like them who make these sorts of comments are not thinking about what they're saying before they say it. I feel pretty confident in saying that my sex life after leaving the church is much more moral according to the church's current standards than those of Brigham Young or Joseph Smith or many of those other polygamous men. I can also say pretty confidently that my sex life outside of the church would not be considered immoral by most Mormons. Maybe certain Mormons, depending on how pious they are. You might be able to find an Easter egg on screen somewhere. But for the most part, within Mormonism, there's nothing wrong with sex as long as it's between a married man and woman. Well, that's what my husband and I are. 10 years plus, baby. I also wanted to read a couple of the other comments I got. Had to return home from my mission temporarily due to a knee injury. Needed 3 months of daily physical therapy. As soon as I got home, I heard rumors from people in my home ward that I had messed around with a girl before going into the MTC. It was so dumb. Come on, guys. The fact that I'm walking with a limp should be a clue that's not right. It's sad that this is relatable and that I can remember specific other times when missionaries came home early for whatever reason, and there were rumors it was because they had messed up in some way sexually. Mormons make this assumption about people so often, not even just people who leave the church, but people who are still members of their church. They assume that it's always about sex. I resigned from the bishopric as first step of transition out of church-centered life, and immediately the ward had rumors that I had an affair and or was a porn addict. Neither true, just Mormons being Christ-like. Mormons see somebody has left the church, especially if they mention sex in any way, and it's just like, you're a whore, you left the church to be a whore, you're sleeping around, it's all about sex, all you think about is sex. My own in-laws, after I left the church, called me Jezebel as a funny nickname between themselves. Jezebel often being a biblical way of calling somebody a whore. My own in-laws, who knew that I had been in a committed relationship with their son for 9 years by the time I found out they were calling me that. If you leave the church, Mormons will assume it's because of sex. If you take a step back from the church, Mormons will assume it's because of sex. If you don't take the sacrament, Mormons will assume it's because of sex. If you come home from your mission early, Mormons will assume it's because of sex. I can passionately say that there is nothing wrong with loving sex. It would be nice if Mormons stopped assuming that people only leave the church for sexual reasons, but that's probably not going to happen. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I wanted to share because I found it entertaining, and I hope you did too. Huge thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel. I appreciate you guys so much. An extra special thank you to Craig Call, Doug Davis, Noble Monster Comics, Tans, and the Exmo Candle Co. for supporting at the Demon tier on my Patreon. It means so much to me. Thank you guys. If you would like to support the channel, there are links to do so in the description below, as well as links to all my other social media if you want to see more content. Thank you for being here, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!
Yeah, I like you, that's for sure. Never have to close the door. Been a long time, a year before, and I'm missing you so bad. Gone away a month or more.